Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. And it may actually zoom in on us. It's hard to say, it's one of those weird. Welcome everybody to another episode of MSP 1337. This week I'm joined by Chase Griffin of ShowTech Solutions. Chase, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So recently ShowTech got the GTIA
We did.
Cybersecurity Trustmark, and
Finally.
yeah, I've known you guys have been going through this process now for was it a year and a half roughly?
This is like 2 years. We kind of started off on CIS and pivoted.
Sure.
And, so I would say in total it was like 2 years.
So there's a lot of buzzwords. I shouldn't say buzzwords. There's a lot of hype around compliance.
Yeah.
Like if you, in the industry right now, oh look, they're doing compliance things, or
Yeah.
they've done something they're complying with, or can you talk about compliance? And Wayne Selk and I were talking last night that a lot of organizations, when they talk about compliance, if you don't have a framework
Yep.
to align with, then you're probably not going to be compliant with anything.
Yeah, and I mean, I was pretty green coming into this. I wasn't. I was an engineer, so I wasn't completely compliance minded. In fact, as an engineer, generally you're less compliance minded because you're just like get it done minded.
Yeah, I think there's it's kind of like if there's no poop in the sandbox, then you don't have to clean the sandbox.
Yeah, exactly. So,
or if you can't see it.
Yeah, but that's to say that the framework, going from CIS and then into Trustmark, it made it a lot easier for me to approach it and understand what I was doing. Because I had a mindset that I could go into it with and a guidebook.
Let's talk about CIS a little bit.
Yeah.
So you really dug in deep to CIS, and obviously
Yeah.
this goes back a little ways, but when I think about CIS, in my head, all I think about is these technical safeguards that are kind of like, I don't know, it made you feel good. You're like, okay, I did that thing.
Yeah, you check the box.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we did build the Trustmark, one of the things that came into play was how do we make sure that we have enough governance safeguards.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, is as you go through the governance safeguards, for me, especially when we were building it out and watching MSPs go through this, it seemed like it really resonated that there were things that are unrelated to cybersecurity that directly impact. I don't know, what was your...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it that goes into honestly managing your culture and you're not just trying to find the tool to check the box or do the thing that you need to do to make sure that you have like a technical thing that you're doing, but the governance part was probably one of the more challenging things for us, just because as a small company, you're focused on doing what you're doing. You're focused on doing the job, and you're not as focused on writing the policies or doing the things that you need to do to make sure that everyone is staying within your compliance framework. So the governance portion was difficult for us, but I think it put us a lot further ahead. Than we would have just doing CIS.
In hindsight, and obviously hindsight's always better than
Looking
back,
wish everything was in hindsight.
Yeah, right. You're like, man, if I only had a mirror to tell me what I should have done.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I look at governance safeguards and then I look at technical safeguards, one of the things that a lot of engineers I think gravitate towards, and myself included, is I know how to turn on DHCP logging.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not real comfortable writing a policy about
that was my
asset
problem.
inventory.
That was really my problem. Is I'm not as comfortable writing the policy that says, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is how you do it. But there's some guidance, and especially we adopted Comply Shield.
Okay.
And that was actually kind of helpful because they give you some guidance on like how do you implement this? How do you write a policy around it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but it definitely puts you farther ahead.
How many policies did you guys end up with when it was said and
We
done?
were like 26, I think.
26
And
policies.
we cut that down. We
Sure.
were in the 30s and ended up kind of, as you go along, you kind of find, oh, well, there's overlap on this one, there's overlap on this one, so we can kind of combine them. So we cut it down from like 35 to 26 or so.
That's actually quite impressive. I've seen, do you find yourself as you're going through your poem right now in your resilience stage that you'll need to add additional policies, or do you feel?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some that we haven't written yet, like data governance is like a pretty hefty one, just because we don't have anything in place.
Is that under data protection?
Yeah,
So your data classification, your where data flows.
Yeah, all your data
overarching.
mapping,
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
You have to have your retention policies and all that sort of stuff. So
Got it. Ironically, if you go back in time, CIS version 7,
yeah,
data protection was like, I think it was like 13 in
Yeah.
the logical sequence of doing CIS.
yeah,
And of course now in version 8, it's number 3. And I was listening to some of the engineers over at CIS, and they said the only reason it's not number 1 was because it's really hard to do data flow if you don't
Yep.
have assets defined.
Yep.
And so then the conundrum was where they just kind of kept going back and forth is, if data is an asset, then why isn't it being, and so they just kind of went in this
Yeah.
like kind of circle over and over and over again. But the one thing that I see, and I'm curious your thoughts, is when you were doing asset inventory, particularly in like your physical assets, not so
Yeah.
much the applications, but like going, okay, well, it's really easy to say we're just going to assume data is there
yeah.
that needs to be protected, rather than going, no, let's create some rules that says that data can't live in that particular
Yeah,
place.
exactly. That was one of the big things I flip-flopped on a lot was, do we just say, like for example, managing data on laptops, you don't want, you want to centralize your data so that it's easily manageable.
Sure.
Which means that you don't want people saving, important stuff to their laptops
Yeah.
or something like that. And so that was something I kind of flip-flopped on is, hey, do I write a policy and say, hey, you can't do this? You
Sure.
can't, you have to store it, in our centralized data storage, or do I actually put the rules in place, the technical safeguards in place to make sure that that data is protected? And we kind of went with a mixture of both,
I think you kind of need both.
Yeah, but
We just don't want them doing C:// all files.
yeah,
right?
exactly. Just put it all there for whoever to find.
Well, when you go back in time, when you think about like standing up file share servers, your
Yeah.
file servers, back in the day, you'd set up a root share,
Yep.
and it was share everyone,
Yep.
and then you built from there, and it's like, well, I don't want everyone to be on this folder,
And then
right?
finally, 3 years
It's like-
down the line, you're like, maybe I should
Let's start restricting
groups,
some, right? And what I found really interesting, in talking to you guys going through this program with regards to data protection, is that if you do just the technical implementation and your staff don't really understand
Yeah.
it, eventually you get this data leakage
Yeah.
because they saved to desktops. Like going to your mixture thing, did you think about things like one of the things that I had done was pushed OneDrive to include desktop.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's probably not great for shortcuts,
No, it's not.
but people save to desktop because it's a convenient location to find
yeah,
something
exactly.
quickly. Why, I don't know. It's just another folder, right?
Yeah, we did the same thing. We made sure that we're at least doing what we can to protect that data as well, and backing it up and doing all that stuff. But we also had a policy that said, hey, you shouldn't do this if you're storing data. Store it here.
Sure.
Try not to, but you understand that policies aren't perfect, people aren't perfect, and you also kind of need the safeguards in place to make sure that, hey, if somebody does it, it's at least protected.
Did you get any pushback from staff on the policy side of things?
No, not really, but I want to say that our team, our culture is pretty, it's cohesive. So, when we have an initiative that we're pushing on, like Trustmark,
Sure.
I think it's something that everyone stands behind. So, but that's a total lucky thing for me. I think other organizations would probably
Not so.
not have the luxury of
Right.
people who are just like, yeah, sure, you're doing this, so I'm behind it.
Well, so obviously I rode you guys pretty hard with the relationship that I
Yeah.
have with Charles,
Yeah.
and in some cases it might have felt like I was riding you hard because I was seeing things that I hadn't seen with some of the other MSPs, which is actually kind of cool because on the one hand it shows a maturity of understanding what needs to be done. On the other side, it is a potential to set you up for failure. And I don't mean failing the program. I think we could probably get you back on track. But you had put together, I think you had, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you had pen testing, continuous vulnerability management, and data protection were all three in one poem.
Well, it was mainly just the data protection.
Sure, yes.
And I think some of the backup and recovery stuff all squeezed into one, because I'm not gonna lie, with data protection, that was one that we looked at and my head would just start spinning. It's like, how are we gonna implement this top to bottom?
And I think one of the things that we can do a better job of, and I've got some notes for future versions, is that data protection by itself is a critical piece, because you're thinking about how to ensure the integrity of the data that doesn't ever get compromised. Well, that's not necessarily the same thing as business disruption or some of the others that are in there. And so I'm just curious, like, as you look at it now, obviously one of the things I think we can do better is show you a better path for doing those different pieces. That would be...
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is that there's not a perfect way to tell somebody, hey, you need to do all this stuff.
Yeah, there's no one right way, but there's definitely some ways that, while they may not be wrong, they put you in a position of struggling to be successful. It puts you in a paralysis spot. You're like, look at all the stuff that we're going to do in this one project. And you're like, well, that's like 30 projects, and I can't check this box because, well, collectively it's going to take all year. Broken out, it's going to take me, 1 to 3 months per project, and I could have felt better about it. Or how did my boss feel better about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the eating an elephant one bite at a time thing. I think, the approach to it is you break it down in the smallest possible bites that you can. So again, there's no perfect way to tell somebody, hey, you've got a big class of tasks that you got to do.
Right.
And this is how you do it. It's not going to be a one size fits all ever.
Right.
So
what's the number one thing that you see that has, say, changed within the organization as a result of going through this initial phase?
Just awareness.
Okay.
Awareness of, like, when you're doing something, how is this going to impact our security posture? How does this fit into the other processes? Or if we're adding an asset, hey, are we updating our asset inventory properly?
Sure.
It's just a general kind of awareness of a lot of things that we weren't paying attention to before. I feel like, I hate to use the word maturity, but I feel like we've matured in a way where, now we know what we don't know.
I don't know how many times I've heard someone say, we don't know what we don't know, or saying that, we didn't know what we didn't know. I mean, there's several combinations of that. They basically boil down to, you can have the best plan, but if you don't have the proper foundation for the blueprints, then it's really not going to come out the way you want it to.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like this laid a better foundation for us to, like, not just fly by the seat of our pants whenever we're, doing our day-to-day. We're not just thinking about, like, how do we get the task done today. We're also thinking about, how does this task fit into the rest of what we're doing? How does it fit into our security posture? Should we be doing this? Does it align with our goals for cybersecurity? And if it doesn't, then we're now finding other ways to do it.
So this episode will probably go live during Cybersecurity Month during October, because that's the only time anybody should work on cybersecurity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We made it an official month, so you got
the
plenty,
1 month.
right? What would you suggest to those that are either considering the Trustmark or are going through it today? Maybe they're struggling with the different categories.
Yeah.
What guidance would you give them, at this point in your journey? I mean, by the time this goes live in October, you'll be nearing your prep window for
Yeah.
starting to do this assessment cycle again.
Yep. The thing I would say is just start it. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's a daunting task, and I think when you're approaching it, it can seem like a mountain that you have to climb, but it's a continuous process. I mean, you're never going to be done, and any time's a good time to start. Now is the best time to start.
Okay.
So I know
now, whenever now is when you should start.
Yeah, exactly.
So one last thing, we've had a lot of feedback on, or I shouldn't say feedback, we've had a lot of comments around, well, the Trustmark is a lot of safeguards. ISO 27001 is only like 103, and even CIS Top 18 is only 153. The Trustmark's 177, and until someone really pushed that towards me, I was like, well, okay, does that really translate to being more work? That was the question that I really kind of was wrestling with. Is it more work because it's more safeguards?
I don't think so, because like CIS, we spent a lot of time on that, and that's technically, it's 18, 3 groups,
right?
IG 1 through 3. So you'd think, at the most there's 36 safeguards that you're actually like implementing, but like we spent a lot of time on those, or not 36, whatever the math is, 54.
There you
go. We spent a lot of time on those, and that's a lot less than Trustmark.
Right.
But I don't think it necessarily translates to more work. I think it's just a broader, window of attention that you have to apply to it.
So one should not be discouraged because it seems like more.
No, I would not say one should be discouraged.
All right.
I would say dive in.
All right.
It's a good time to start.
Cool. Well, Chase, thanks for being on, and enjoy the rest of the ChannelCon event.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, man.
Got it out of the way.